Larry Fink, today, the guy running BlackRock, is really the president of the United States. If we look at the kind of influence he's got in every industry, Joe.
BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard control $22 trillion in assets, which is roughly the equivalent of the entire gross domestic product of the United States of America.
Conspiracy theorists, both on the right and on the left, and especially in the center, has been telling us that three companies, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, control everything.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but
it's not just Diddy, it's like BlackRock and Vanguard. They actually own the music industry and control the music.
Wait. The investment houses of BlackRock and Vanguard, they own the music industry?
Absolutely. From Sony Music Group to they're the most invested in the music industry. They're the most through Viacom. They own BET, MTV, VH1. They're in control of the music industry, and they also own the overwhelming majority of stock in the private prison industry. I think the stock name is called CXW now. It's called Core Civic. It used to be called Corrections Corporations of America, and then they transitioned the name. And so this whole hip-hop deal was about creating a culture where, like, prison is a rite of passage.
Literally the same people who own the labels own private prisons.
But they didn't make you write those lyrics.
It's not about making somebody write the lyrics. It's about being there as guardrails to make sure certain songs make it through and certain songs don't.
Imagine that on a certain day, you are browsing Facebook or Instagram. When you see photos of your coworker on vacation in France, you feel like doing the same and search on Google for some flight deals to France. And then you make the purchase. You take the opportunity, and on the same day, you already book accommodation in Paris through Airbnb. On the day of the trip, you're woken up early by your iPhone alarm clock, and you take an Uber to the airport. While waiting, you buy a McDonald's sandwich and a Coca-Cola to have something to eat until it's time to board your American Airlines flight aboard a Boeing 737. Would you be able to tell what is the common point among all the companies mentioned in the short story? You probably don't know, but all of them are owned by the same small group of people. But what if I tell you that it doesn't stop there? And this same small group of people has total control over all the major corporations in every sector of the global economy. If you're curious, watch this video until the end, because what I've mentioned here is just the beginning of the whole story. But before anything else, I ask you to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It helps our channel grow and allows our content to reach more people. It may not be news to you that the largest companies in the world are controlled by a small number of investment funds. After all, the corporate world is a kind of labyrinth, an interconnected network where everyone seems to own everything. But that is only true up to a certain point. Together, these corporations form a sort of pyramid where smaller groups belong to larger ones. And at the top of this pyramid, the three largest investment funds stand out, exerting direct or indirect influence over the others. They are State Street, BlackRock, and Vanguard. Together, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street have approximately $30 trillion in assets under management. That's more than all sovereign wealth funds combined and nearly 5 times the size of the global hedge fund industry. The Big Three, as they're commonly known, have direct control over more than 1,600 large companies that employ a total of 23 million people worldwide. These three investment funds together own approximately 90 of the companies listed in the SEP 500, the index that measures the performance of the 500 largest American companies. In terms of market capitalization, this amounts to around $30 trillion in updated values. a figure surpassing the GDP of any sovereign nation on the planet. The power of these three companies goes beyond what your imagination can grasp. Just out of curiosity, when you visit the Yahoo Finance website and search for the largest shareholders of the biggest companies in the world, the probability of not finding one of these three companies among them is extremely low. The larger the company and the greater its influence over people's lives, the higher the probability that it is controlled by at least one of these three funds. All the big tech companies such as Google, IBM, Amazon, and Facebook are controlled by them. All the major media corporations like Disney, Viacom, Fox, Time Warner, and Comcast as well. Major pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson, along with numerous other large companies in the airline, hospitality, apparel, food, automotive, banking, and payment sectors, are also under their control, from Coca-Cola to Pepsi, from Apple to Microsoft, from Visa to MasterCard, from the electric car and solar panel sector to the oil and mining sector. These three groups own the largest companies in all sectors, across all industries. And if you have doubts about it, don't just take my word for it, verify it yourself. Among the three groups, State Street is by far the smallest, yet the company alone manages over $3.5 trillion in assets, nearly double the current GDP of Brazil. However, when we look at the largest shareholders of State Street, to our surprise, we find Vanguard and BlackRock in the first and second positions. BlackRock is the largest and most well-known arm of the big three. The company manages over $10 trillion in assets and has strong connections with governments, being considered by the press as the fourth power of the American nation. BlackRock has close ties with the world's largest central banks, particularly the Federal Reserve. Many of BlackRock's employees are former high-ranking government and central bank officials. In addition to being an asset manager, BlackRock is also an auditing and consulting firm, with its main clients being governments and central banks. The auditing arm of BlackRock, called BlackRock Solutions, is often invited by governments to audit and oversee financial institutions. At the same time, BlackRock's asset management division is often the majority shareholder of the very same financial institutions that it audits. In other words, governments hire BlackRock to oversee and audit companies that are owned by BlackRock itself. In addition, during audits, BlackRock Solutions has constant access to privileged information from competitors, which is extremely useful for BlackRock itself. Similarly, in March 2020, the Federal Reserve chose, without any kind of bidding process, BlackRock's consulting arm, FMAE, to manage the Emergency Asset Purchase Program, which included the purchase, surprisingly, of the very funds managed by BlackRock. According to the company itself, none of these cases constitute a conflict of interest, as BlackRock claims that the sectors responsible for auditing, consulting, and asset management are separate and entirely independent entities. The company is managed by Larry Fink, an influential figure in the global political and financial arena, also known for being a strong supporter of environmental and humanitarian causes. Surely, he is another great human being concerned about the environment and the well-being of the less fortunate. However, Larry Fink does not manage the company alone. Like any publicly traded company, BlackRock has shareholders, and the largest among them, to your surprise or not, is none other than Vanguard. Vanguard Group is an investment management company, as well as a consultancy firm. It has over $7 trillion in assets under management, and is the largest provider of mutual funds and the second largest provider of index funds in the world, second only to BlackRock itself. Unlike other companies in the sector, Vanguard has a unique structure that makes its ownership more difficult to identify. Therefore, the question arises, who is behind Vanguard? It is not possible to know for sure because Vanguard is a privately held company. Apparently, the owners of Vanguard prefer to avoid attention. Vanguard claims that its owners are the investment funds that the company itself manages, and through research on the subject, Some investment funds can be linked to Vanguard, such as Rothschild Investment Corp. and Edmund de Rothschild Holding. Reports from Oxfam and others state that 1% of the world's population holds the same wealth as the other 99% combined. Even worse, Oxfam claims that 82% of all the money earned in 2017 went to this 1%. According to Forbes, the renowned business magazine, in its report published in April 2021, there were 27 55 billionaires in the world. It is not difficult to conclude that Vanguard belongs to a small elite of individuals, many of whom are members of the wealthiest families on Earth. Some of these families have been wealthy since before the Industrial Revolution and have maintained their wealth to this day. Many of these families, including some of royal lineage, are the founders of our banking system and various other sectors of our economy. The current monetary policy of central banks, which indiscriminately increases the money supply without proper backing, combined with the fiscal policy of governments accumulating exorbitant debts that will likely never be repaid except through inflation, favors the financial elite at the expense of the rest of society, particularly the poorest individuals at the bottom of the social pyramid. It is no coincidence that 2020, according to Forbes, witnessed the largest growth in the number of billionaires and their respective fortunes in history. While hundreds of millions of people were condemned to poverty, the exponential growth in recent years of investment funds such as Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street, which threaten to control the entire global corporate world, is nothing more than a reflection of the distortions caused by our current political and monetary system.
But there's a reason. There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks, and it's the same reason that it will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The big, the wealthy, the real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. They're irrelevant. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets, and they own all the big media news, all the big media companies. So they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. You know something? They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table and figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. And by the way, it's the same big club they use to beat you over the head with all day long when they tell you what to believe. All day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged. And nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Good, honest, hard-working people, white collar, blue collar, doesn't matter what color shirt you have on. Good, honest, hard-working people continue. These are people of modest means. Continue to elect these rich cocksuckers who don't give a fuck about them. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you at all. At all. At all. Yeah.
You know?